You're listening to Cash and Sass. I'm Lisa Marie, your go-to gal for all things money. As the Sassy Wealth Queen and the brains behind the Sassy Wealth Coach, I'm here to take you on a thrilling ride from the financial chaos to sassy and sexy money. Hi, my sassy friend. Welcome back to another episode of Cash and Sass. And I'm Lisa Marie, the Sassy Wealth Queen, the brains behind this podcast and the Sassy Wealth Coach. And today I have with me Karen Gray. She's a certified coach, speaker, and leader on a mission to empower professionals to see and receive their worth and value by mastering their thoughts, emotions, and mindset. She brings over 30 years of financial experience and her own transition from corporate to entrepreneurship as the co-founder of multiple businesses. Welcome. Thank you for being on my show, Karen.
I'm
and as
honored.
everybody knows, I mean, come on, the title is Cash and Sass. We're going to have candid conversations. And I want to just dive deep into, that value and that worth, and how that correlates to money mindset and the changes, and also get into the changes. But how do you see how that correlates?
Yeah. Well, first off, thanks for having me. I'm really excited about this conversation because I feel like this is a different spin. We're kind of coming at money mindset, self worth a little bit differently. And so I think it kind of opens up people's perspectives. And so the reason I feel like they're so important and why they correlate is because I truly believe everything that we have, everything that we do begins with our thoughts and our beliefs. And so if somehow I have been nurtured, natured, taught to believe that I am unworthy or unvaluable, I'm going to have most likely 99% of the time a hard time seeing myself as valuable enough to have the things that are on my heart to desire. So therefore, I'm probably going to self-sabotage those things. I'm not going to be able to receive them when they're coming my way because imposter syndrome rises up. And this whole feeling of I want means that I don't have. And so we kind of live in that space of wanting and needing, but not being able to receive.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. I just that kind of comes back to how I had a coach shift my thinking. Instead of saying I want, I say I desire.
Mm-hmm.
And I've started doing that, the same thing with my clients. Because when we desire, it just one word shifts our mindset. Because, like you said, when we say I want, it means I don't have and I
Right.
lack. And when you say I desire, you're not saying I need it or want it. You're just saying it's something I would like to have.
Yeah.
I
I
desire
even
it.
spin it a little bit more and I just get curious. Like, how fun would it be to have this? How
Ooh,
amazing would it
like
be to
that.
have this? And so you play in the possibilities rather than still the space of not having,
Right,
right? So
right.
it's like, and when you see that there's already so many things in our life that we are abundant in, like I have an abundance of oxygen right now, right? I have an abundance of friends. I have an abundance of love. I have an abundance of whatever it is. Maybe it's an abundance of shoes. I tend to have that. Um, But when we can begin to see that we already have abundance, then it's easier to see an abundance of other things too.
Mm.
So when I can say, man, I am so blessed and I have so much of goodness around me, then I could say goodness follows me. Then I could say, wow, does that mean that money could also be a part of that goodness? And now I've just opened up the possibilities rather than resisting them.
Yeah, because I mean, you're right. I mean, how many of us women can walk into our closet and say we have an abundance of clothes?
Yeah. And
Most of us
sometimes,
can.
yeah, sometimes it's an abundance of like we collect something, right? So whatever
Hmm.
that is, I have an abundance of
Hmm.
Tupperware. I don't know how, but somehow I have a ton of Tupperware through the years or different type of Rubbermaid stuff. probably more bowls than lids that don't match, but hey, I have an abundance of them. So when we can begin to see that we can be abundant and we live in abundance already, if you're in the States, you have an abundance of gifts and freedoms and benefits and
Mhm.
values that some other places and people aren't afforded. Can you begin to see how blessed you are and see it's
So
all
that you're
out
open
there?
to receive more. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now I can
I
just
love
receive
that.
more because I see it everywhere, right? Our
Yeah.
reticular activating system goes to work and begins to see how abundant we are.
Mm.
And then I can be like, wow, okay, so I can receive shoes. I can receive clients. I can receive opportunities. I can receive jobs. I can receive money. I can receive. How does that feel? Do I feel deserving of that? And that goes back to that mindset of when I see myself as valuable of receiving and worthy to receive anything, then it means everything.
Yeah. I like that. So I'm going to ask a question because
Mhm.
I know, many listeners are going to say, okay, easier said than done, right?
Right. Yeah, that's easy for you, Karen.
How, right. How, one, were you always with this value and worth? Did you always just easily see the abundance that you had?
Mhm.
That's my first question.
Um, the easy answer is no. So I am 55 years old, and it took me 45 years to even begin to see that what I had was something I had created by my own thoughts. And then it took another probably 8 years to really shift and do the inner work to begin to see I was still stopping myself by my own thoughts. And so, no, my whole story began with being adopted, finding out I was adopted at 6, and then creating a story around it that I was unwanted, unvaluable, unworthy, unloved. And so I had to earn people's love. I had to deserve it. I had to be good enough. I had to somehow be perfect or I wasn't safe.
Mm,
And that became I wasn't safe to have abundance. I wasn't safe to have nice things. I wasn't safe to have friends that loved me or partners that would be loyal to me. I mean, it just began this life of lack and need and constantly looking for approval and worth and value outside of myself. And the people pleasing, all of the things that I'm sure there's somebody listening to this right now that can relate to that. Um, 3 marriages, 3 divorces later, and I'm laying on the floor in my bedroom wanting to just disappear. I just
mm,
wanted to be done with it. The pain, the whole life that I had created, not realizing my choices had created that. And it was only because I had 2 little boys that I literally didn't end it. Like, it was that dark, that desperate, and it's like I made a decision and I flipped a switch. No more. Not one more day am I gonna live like this. Something has to change, and I began searching for what is that change, and I ran across some really amazing books, and I can't even find them now. I don't know what they were, but they began to tell me it was like when you go to look for something, all of a sudden now the universe, like God, just starts delivering those things.
yeah.
And I ran across a book that a friend had given me, and I've moved several times and I've lost the book, so I don't even know what it was, but it was that your thoughts create your life. And I was
Mm.
like, nah, that can't be. There's no way I chose this. There's no way I would intentionally do this to
Right.
myself.
I wouldn't do this to my I didn't
No,
choose this.
that's bull. Like the whole, no way.
I've said those things to myself several times.
Yes. And
More than
so,
several, actually.
yeah. But then when you see that, you can't unsee it and you can't unlearn
Mhm.
that. And then
Right.
I began to see, wow, okay, there could be possibly, maybe some truth to this. And then it's like, holy crap, this is completely true. And so that evolution took a little bit of time. Um, but then once you see it and it's like, oh, okay, I begin to see how that gave me my power back because now I can control those things. Now I'm not at the whim of everybody else. And that felt really good. And then I just begin to see correlations everywhere. So at this same time, my daughter had started competing in rodeo queen pageants, and a friend of ours was helping her and had been in a car. She got in a car accident and ended up passing. And I had to start helping my daughter and started coaching her. Then that led to me coaching other people. And so as I'm evolving, it's like the universe just conspired for me. God just completely laid out a path. And in those moments, I got to see these things that I was struggling with, my daughter struggled with, and these other girls struggled with, and their moms struggled with. And then I saw that in my financial clients. It's like, oh, holy smokes, this is a human condition. We're all doing this. It's not just me.
Mm-mm.
And then I really went to work doing the backstory and finding out, how do I fix this? How do I change this? What do I do? And the more I would work to help other people, the more it helped me. And the more I
Mhm.
helped me, the more it helped other people. So it was just like this complete evolution out of that pit. Um, Fast forward now, I saw that there was an opportunity to use this as a career. Like, I didn't even know people could get paid to coach. Like, holy smokes, this is a whole thing. Um, Left behind my financial career, got certified. I thought this was just a like Tony Robbins and Dale Carnegie kind of thing and, Zig Ziglar. But no, like normal people can help other people with their stories and their lessons and make a difference. And that just lit my soul on fire. And so I really just dug in. How do I make a difference in women's lives so they don't have to learn the hard way and take 50 years to get to this place?
Exactly.
So
And I wanna
that's a
go
really
back
long
to
story for saying
no, but
no.
I love
Didn't
it.
happen overnight.
I love it. I love it because 2 things. 1, and I'm gonna go there's a big, huge key, and I'm hoping my listeners caught it, and if you're watching the video, you caught it. It's something I say all the time to my
Mhm.
clients. It's something I, teach, and it's something I support my clients doing. It starts with a decision.
Absolutely.
It's
We
you
have a
can
choice.
stay in yes, you can stay in that mindset, you can stay in
Mhm.
that hamster wheel, you can stay in the generation stuff that came down from generations before you. That you don't have control over, okay? However, you have control now,
Yes.
and it starts with a decision. My changing the trajectory of my family story and therefore my children's family story and generations to come started with one thing. And it was a decision that
Mhm.
it was ending now and that I was changing it because, like Karen, I was at the bottom of the bottom and there had to be something else. This couldn't be what I was meant to be doing and meant to be here for. And it really was life going to be this hard all the time.
Right.
And then I kind of fell into the stuff a little bit, a little different. I a coach said something to me,
Mhm.
and I was like, I'm not mean to money. I'm grateful, and and then she said, "Oh, do you say thank you when you spend money?" And my very first response, which is on several episodes already, is, "Why the hell would I say thank you?" And she went, and I went,
Oh.
"Oh, that's not nice, is it?" She's like, she goes, "If someone treated you like shit, would you come back? Would you stick around? Would you be abundantly in their life? Would you be there all the time?" The answer is no, not no, but hell no, right?
Yeah.
How many people
Right.
have we like stopped being around because of that? She's then why would money?
I love that. I love treating my business like an entity, like it's an individual, and money is a partner. So money is
Mm-hmm.
also this entity because it truly is this value and exchange of something tangible that
Mm-hmm.
is literally, I mean, we can't see it, right? I can hold a dollar, but I can't hold the energy of that any more than I can hold my spirit, any more than I can
Right.
hold the energy of light or wind or whatever,
Right.
right? But they all
Mhm.
exist.
Exactly. And the key thing is, when she said that to me, a light bulb just went off.
So
And
good.
I immediately looked and I went, "Wait, have I been doing this to myself?" Because again, part of that mindset is that value, that worth, thinking that you
Right.
have to work hard, thinking that you you're not deserving of making money, thinking all those things, thinking that you're supposed to work 60 hours a week.
Right.
Those thoughts were creating, and I was like, "Oh, come on."
Yeah.
And I went and started searching, and I tipped over to the mindset books, mindset books, and I fell head first
Yes. It's a rabbit
into
hole.
these. I fell into it. I fell head first into that rabbit hole. Like, I went to take a peek and I fell. And
Yeah.
I still have a whole buttload of books that I still read, that I'll go back and read, and sometimes I'll find new ones that I'll read, and,
Mhm.
um, there are a couple of them that I went to go read that it really didn't stick, so I gave them away because maybe they'll stick with someone else, and the point, though, is when I started reading it and I started like you're talking about, that correlation of, "Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Okay, how do we change this? How do I shift this? How do I stop this?"
Right.
Right? And when you start making that shift, and I started making that shift, and um I had gotten laid off, I started my business, but when I made that shift, all of a sudden, like you're talking about, the universe shows up, starts showing you that you're not the only one who
Yep.
has these thoughts and these perceptions and this awful relationship with money, that
Mhm.
if we changed it to a very good relationship with money, if we changed that value and that worth so we had a good relationship with money, the amount of impact we could have. And I
Absolutely.
think that that's just really huge. So, my second question is, you made the shift, okay?
Mhm.
A light bulb went off on you.
Right.
For my listeners, if they're sitting here going, "Okay, I, I don't want to wait for a light bulb. What are the steps that I can do to, I make a decision, but and what is the next step that I can do? What is something tangible I can do to start shifting that
Yeah.
so that I'm heading in the right direction and I'm stopping it?"
I think, something that I learned that was one of the biggest rocks, I call them rocks, obstacles, challenges. My podcast is called Rock Movers, and it's all about those rocks that we get to move. But one of my biggest rocks was trying to make sense in my head how I could have the past that I have and the future that I desired at the same time. Like, that future can't be for me because of this. And once I begin to see that both can exist, I can have that past and I can have the desires for the future. So then that also means that I can sit with my current bank account and the desire to make it better, which means I can sit with my past beliefs and shift them and begin to see different. So this whole theory of yes, my parents came from poverty and I can have wealth. Yes, I was taught that you have to work hard for money, and that doesn't have to be true for me. So I just began to live in this possibility, which is what allowed my body to shift and let go of that energy and that heaviness and that burden of it has to be a grind. It has to be hard. It has to be heavy. When I got to see, and it can be different for me, and I can make a different choice, and I can do things that feel good for me, and I get to deserve to be happy, and all of these things. So I got to live in the land of and it changed everything for me. So if you're sitting here going, okay, Karen, maybe that works for you because you're in Texas and you have whatever. So, of course, you have this life. We make assumptions about people. I don't have a college degree. I have a special needs son. I have a son who has been in prison with drug addiction. I have 4 marriages, 3 divorces, and I now have the absolute best life I've ever not even could imagine. Um, I live in total abundance. It's all around me. My kids are healthy. I had a child that was born that they said would never live. He's now 20. I have grandbabies. I have a legacy. I found my adoptive family or my biological family. I have my adoptive family. I have all of this love and abundance around me. And in 2007, I wanted it all to end. How can both of those exist if not for the power of my thoughts, my choice, and me believing that it could be possible? The moment I changed and said it could be possible for me, all my other choices began to change.
Yeah, and what you can do, my listeners, is a tangible thing is sit down anytime you're starting to think of the negativity, right? And when you're saying, "Oh, I'm broke," or "This is my
Mhm.
current bank account," and then immediately say, "And it's okay for me to desire more, and I can have more." Start out loud saying those
Mhm.
"and" statements so that you're training your brain, your body, the whole 9 yards. You're basically retraining yourself, right, to into those
Absolutely.
"and" thoughts. You're gonna have to be intentional at first. It's not gonna happen subconsciously at
Mhm.
first. Subconsciously, you're still gonna be doing exactly what you're probably doing now. I didn't subconsciously say thank you every time I spent money or pumped or put gas in my vehicle. Now I do without thinking about it. And when I first started doing that, showing that gratitude with money so that my relationship changed with it, I had to be intentional on doing it. So,
Mhm.
and sometimes I'll catch myself still. I'll be at the grocery store, perfect example. And I'll walk in and all of a sudden, I mean, you have to look at price of eggs or whatever. And all of a sudden you're just like, and then I catch myself and I say, "Thank you that I can be here and that I can buy these groceries.
Mhm.
Thank you that I have the money. Thank you for my business that provides that money." And just doing that, excuse me, changes your whole your perspective. It changes your mood immediately.
Right. Changes
It,
the
it
energy of what's
every
possible.
yes. Yeah, it changes
Yeah.
the energy, it changes your mood, it changes everything, and I promise you, try it. I promise.
Yeah.
It works. Um, and that's the key is you're gonna have to first be very intentional and keep doing it. It's just like working out and building it's a building you're building an internal muscle, and
Absolutely.
it's totally possible. Karen's living proof. I mean, her story, hello. Y'all know mine. Y'all have heard it. If you don't, you can go on my website and you can see parts of it. And it, it's again, it comes down to a decision. And
Mhm.
I was able to go from, I mean, in my time, I've had Chapter 7 bankruptcy, 2 foreclosures, a short sale, and I don't even know how many repossessions to count. And I'm 51 years old, and
Yeah.
I now live my best life. And I'm desiring to buy a house again. So I have my own house for my kids. I also have a special needs child who is 21. So there's this assumption that we look at and we
Mhm.
think everything's grand,
Yeah.
and I live in abundance. Yes, I rent a house. I don't own my house yet, and I still live in abundance because I do have a roof over my head, over my kids' head, and I'm going to one day buy a house
I
and it's going
love
to be
the
ours,
and. Love the
right?
ands. And what if we could detach any expectations from what this gets to look like?
Mhm.
Like, I just get to receive, I get to be ready, I get to be abundant, and I'm gonna trust that whatever comes my way is exactly what I'm supposed to have. When I set out doing this, I was like, okay, I want this, 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 and this. And if it doesn't do that, somehow I'm saying this to myself, then it means it's not working. And I couldn't, when I was that restrictive, I couldn't see the great things that were working out for me all at the same time.
Right,
So
right.
detaching from what it has to look like to be able to see that it's happening all along is also really powerful in that whole process. And being able to recognize the little gifts, the little bonuses, the little things all along the way. Because had I restricted, and I can tell you there are times I have, um, my business was supposed to look a certain way. I was supposed to be doing a certain thing, and I missed a huge opportunity. I can see it now in hindsight, because it didn't wear the clothes that I thought it was supposed to wear, right? It didn't have the bones that I thought it was supposed to look like. And now I look back and I'm like, ah, that was exactly a huge missed opportunity. So sometimes it's just living in this space of that curiosity, as we talked about earlier,
Mhm, mhm.
and
My
what could
coach
it look
my
like?
coach calls it unattached attachment.
Yes, yes.
So,
And
like, when you have a sales call with someone,
mhm,
having that unattached attachment means you're not seeming needy, and you're open to the possibilities. You're
right.
curious about the possibility of you
Love that.
having them as a client and working with them, but you're not attached to it.
Yes.
And when you don't have that attachment, your whole energy, your demeanor changes. I'm not attached to um, living here for, a couple more years, whatever that
Mhm.
looks like. And I know what I desire, and I'm okay with it happening whenever it's supposed to happen.
Right.
And there's that, I've done a lot of work of changing one word, and it's going from the but to the and, because
Mhm.
when you say but, your brain hears negative,
Right.
and it literally doesn't hear anything else.
Yes.
It hears a negative and it doesn't hear anything else. And I did not realize that until I started working with another type of coach. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
And
really?
I think that right there is the perfect example of why it's so important to have that outside influence, a coach, a
Hmm.
mentor,
Hmm.
because how do you retrain your brain to catch those things if you don't see them in the beginning? So having someone else call that
It
out.
takes a very, very long time.
Right. So you can shorten your curve when you work with someone that's gone through that and they can
Yes,
recognize it,
yes,
right? So
yes.
I just
I mean, 'cause
that
like
was
you
when things
said,
changed for me too, was hiring a coach.
yeah, because I mean, think about it. You did the work at first, right? And a lot of that
Mhm.
work you did by yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because you didn't know. I did a lot of the work by myself. And then when I started doing my business, and then I started hiring coaches, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And, and she said that one thing, and she said, let's practice taking the word but out and putting in. And again, I had to do it intentionally,
Right.
because I would literally say it and then stop and go back up, not
And
but, and then say it. And then I would catch myself as I would start to say and then I would stop and change it.
right. It's
And
that
now,
evolution of the language, the vernacular.
and now I say and more and the word but less.
Mhm.
Every now and then, little Lisa comes up and it gets the best of me, okay?
Right, right.
She gets up there in my ear and she starts talking, and I start listening because she's scared, or something
Mhm.
triggered her or whatever. And then I have to catch myself and remember
Right.
and say, no, that can be true. And this can also still be
So
our
powerful.
current presence, and we can go towards the future of what we're wanting. And I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest key, right? Is
Yeah.
is changing that whole perception. And that means, yes, it's internal work, y'all.
Yeah.
You Yes, you can go and make tons of money. Okay, great. But if you don't, see, did the but, and if you don't change, the inner work, none of it's going to mean a hill of beans
Yeah.
because you're still going to be living broke because you're not going to see your value. You're not going to see your worth and you won't see the abundance. So
Yeah.
trust me when I say that because I thought I had done enough work and come to find out, universe let me know I needed a little bit more work done. And so when cash flow stopped a little bit, I was like, wait. And that was when it came to be that I need to do some more deeper work
Right.
in order to grow because I still hadn't done the true the deep inner abundance. I'd done a lot of work and there was still more to do. And that's the
Yeah.
key is you got to realize you're never done.
Yeah.
You're never
Oh my
done.
gosh. So true. I mean, I don't know your experience, but it sounds like it was similar. For me, it was about the decision, so the head,
It was a decision.
and then it became the energy of it, right? How I embodied that, so the spirit. But if you don't let that trauma go from your body holds on. Our body is made up of water. The body keeps the score. There's a great book called that, The Body Keeps the Score. It's really deep. Took me a while to go through it because I had to stop and kind of process and go back. But our body holds on to trauma. And so one of the things that my body did was it remembered that we had a money cap. If I made over a certain amount of money, somehow, some way, I went back into a trauma response and spent whatever above that, or I would find a way to self sabotage. And it's like, okay, I'm doing the energetic work. I'm doing all of this. And my coach came to me, um, and I went to her. And in this conversation, she's like, okay, but you're still reacting the same way. So, because we did all the work, right? Outside influence coming in and going, here it is, shine a spotlight on it. And I had to literally do somatic breath work. I had to really work through the triggers and the habits, the physical habits I was doing, even though I was doing the right thing with my head, to get full benefit of what was going on because y'all, it is so deep, all the layers. The other thing we talked about the reframe, and I'd love to share this. Do we have time?
Mhm.
Um, I kept before I could like kind of get over that hurdle, I kept seeing all of these things that had happened, and I had this subconscious, like I would just had all of this regret. Like, had I known all of this, I could have missed all of this, and I didn't see the opportunities in my past until I sat down and I measured out what I had learned, what those experiences, how they had benefited me, how I had learned, how I had grown through these things, and how those things were necessary for me to be who I was. And so when I did that, I took all of the things that I felt like were just these really heavy burdens and rocks and failures, and I was carrying them as burdens. I like they were my those were my shadows, right? The shame I was carrying, failed businesses, failed marriages, bad decisions, bad relationships, friends. And when I saw, oh, I learned this from that. This is how I'm better. I met this person through that experience. So I found the value of every single thing that once had been a source of shame or heaviness or um, embarrassment, anxiety. I reframed it and found the blessing in it, found the abundance in it. And when I did that, that list, I literally drew a line down, put a situation, put the benefit, situation, benefit. Tore off the sheet, destroyed all of the negative things. That just that one exercise changed so much for me. It was like when I tore that and shredded it, a part of me just physically was lighter because
Mhm.
I kept the benefits and I made that cognitive decision. All of that was for me. All of that
Mhm.
had to happen for me to be who I am. I wouldn't be the person who's empathetic had I not been through that adoption. I wouldn't be the
Right.
person who saw the value of my current marriage without those other relationships. And I
Mhm.
was just like, wow, this is exactly who I'm supposed to be in this moment. And I really like her. She's doing
Mhm.
cool shit and getting a lot of stuff done for other people. That's worth it. And then
Mhm.
everything after that began to be worth it. It was just it was another choice, another decision that flipped.
Yeah. And I was told I did a I s- was at a retreat and I did my
Mhm.
core signature talk, and we're getting feedback. And one of the best things that someone said, and it was just another reminder, is that, and this was part of my story that was intervened in there from when I was younger. And they said that, what happened, w- and it involved my father, was like that was the best gift
Yes.
that he could have ever given you because it made you who you are today.
Bingo. Such
And
truth.
and when you look at it that way, it was a reminder of everything that I've done. And I've done the somatic work last year. I had to do well, I'd done some before, but I had to do some deep somatic work before. That
Mhm.
was the first time I'd ever gone that deep into the somatic and trauma work. And I did it because of the situations that happened with my business. And then all of a sudden, universe is right here smacking my face, going, "Are you seeing what I'm trying to tell you now? That I
Yeah.
just ripped everything in front of you apart so that you would pay attention."
Right.
And it was, "Oh,
Yeah. It's like
I'm
it
I'm I'm still hitting this thing, and I'm self-sabotaging myself
yes.
because of it." And
Yes.
so doing that work, and so there's been a lot of inner growth this last year,
Mm.
and your inner growth affects your money and it affects your money mindset. And I'm going to say this because everybody knows I'm a fractional CFO and wealth coach. So I'm a fractional CFO, and then I bring in the mindset. You have to do that inner work, right? It's a must if you're going to change that. And when you do that inner work, it changes how you look at your money, it changes how you look at your bank accounts, which therefore also changes how you manage it.
Right.
And you have to be intentional in some aspects because you also have to work on changing some of the habits that you may have from the old mindset.
Yes.
And that's where the coaches, the outside coaches and fractional CFOs and all of those things, that's where we come into. We're able to help you make those changes. We're able to support you and help you move forward so that you're able to. I tell my clients all the time, I want to help you create, retain, and expand wealth so that you're living aligned with your values, your goals, and your desires so that you can make the impact that you are here in this world to make.
Yeah.
Period.
Period.
And you're able
Full
to do
stop.
that, right? No, and I think this is really important. If you get nothing from that, or get anything from this conversation, it first starts with a decision, and then you have to do the work with the energy. Otherwise, all of you can keep making the money, but I mean, you've heard me and Karen both. We end up self-sabotaging, both of us self-sabotage
Yeah.
ourselves, and I can guarantee you, I can tell you it affected the money flow coming in, let me tell you.
Well, think
Okay?
about they talk about people who have, athletes who have, been given millions of dollars, but they didn't change their mindset. They blew it and they end up bankrupt. Lottery winners, right? They didn't change the embodiment of how they functioned, how they saw money, how they spent money. They didn't change their habits. And so money is it's literally just this pile of stuff that you can, blow through. If you don't change how you see money, how you value yourself, the habits aren't going to change. Like we talk about in business, the leading and lagging indicators. The lagging indicators are the results you're seeing right now. So if you don't like the results you've got, change the leading indicators, which is your thoughts. What goes before you? Your thoughts, your energy, your decision.
And then change how you are looking at it and managing it. Yes.
Right.
It
Yeah.
it it they go hand in hand, and I'll say that till the day I die. Uh,
Absolutely.
you have a free gift for my listeners. Will you please tell them about that? Because I actually, love that you have this. This is something I don't have, so y'all should jump at it. But will you tell them about it?
Yeah, you're talking about the quiz because I have a couple free offers, but I do have a quiz. And just going through my own self sabotage, I learned that there's really a couple different basic types of people who sabotage. And I created this quiz with different archetypes. So you can learn what your type of self sabotage is, what this imposter archetype is, what to do about it. And you can actually learn how it's got some, everything has a shadow and a light side, right? So you can see what the benefits are for this archetype because the way that you operate is basically there to keep you safe. So, how do I keep myself safe? And how am I also sabotaging things in that process? So, I call it like your kryptonite and then your superpowers. So, figure out what your self worth archetype is, your kryptonite, your superpowers. And then I offer a free call to kind of understand and break that down so you know what to do with it. And just, going back to our conversation, you then have the choice on what you do with that information and how you move forward. But I
Yeah.
love pouring back into people, taking the things I've learned and giving them back as a gift. And so that's my gift to your listeners. Thank you for sharing that.
Awesome. I love it. And we will have the link in the show notes. So make sure you go and get that so that you're able to see what type of personality art, free. It's a free money personality archetype. Can't even
Yeah. Yep.
the archetype. I
Yeah. So
can't
you can
even
learn,
pronounce.
how that
And I
impacts
think
your
that's
money.
awesome. Yes, and that's the key is like the dark and light side, and it's going to start giving you um some insights on from even just from what we've talked about. Okay, what steps you can take to
Mhm.
change, that money wealth and you being worthy and valuable, right? And see that what you have, start seeing the abundance that you have, so that you're able to move forward and let more abundance in. And I love that.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being a guest and being with me today. And I truly appreciate it. And my sassy
Thank
listeners,
you.
until next time, remember, stay sassy. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on Cash and Sass. Check us out on social media and on our website at www.thesassywealthcoach.com, where you can download my free Money Story Start Guide. The website again is www.thesassywealthcoach.com. And as always, subscribe to the show to catch every new episode and leave us a review so we can continue to bring you fresh content. And remember, yes, it is possible to have sassy and sexy money. See you next week.